Okay, right, streaming.
Done. All right.
You got it.
Done. Hope everybody had an interesting week and had a great weekend. So again, welcome to Iron Sharpens Iron. Um, I'm brother Hashar Lamar. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises to Yahweh Hashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai and double honors to the elders of HOI, elders of Bach, elder Torah, elder Sabal, Sadiq Shawapar, to Captain Ariyah, and to all the senior men and the men who was putting in this work. I like to say shalom. All right, so another little hot topic this week. That's been like, grinding my gears, as Peter said on Family Guy. He used to have this little thing called grinding my gears. So basically tonight's title is the original birth control. Okay. So the reason why for this is because it's a well, let me read what I gotta say. All right, I gotta stay on track. I got a foul mouth, so I gotta read everything. All right, so the original birth control in accordance with the Most High, or what they say, potty mouth. All right, so women have a natural birth control that is in you. Okay. So again, for the ladies that understand your whole menstrual cycle and stuff like that, um, this is mostly for the younger Israel, the teenagers. All right. So again, it's called a menstrual cycle. And we will get into it tonight. So bear with me. We're going to touch on a few ways on why we as Israelites keep getting hoodwinked on Esau's tomfoolery. So for example, first it was, the whole monogamy and everything. And, the family course is eating that up. You know what I'm saying? Then the pagan holidays, and now illicit relationships from when we are teens and some younger on sex and what birth control is. So a lot of us start having sex at 13, 14 years old, 12, 10, 9, all this stuff. Why is that? Why do they send us to co-ed schools? You know what I'm saying? So again, we're gonna hop on this. Um, I'm not gonna. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna give it to you just enough so you can look more into the whole coercedness of this situation. So again, this is for the younger generation of our community. As I say, the know-it-all teenager. LOL. We were that at a time. So as we used to say, what I'm going to do is hawk down the issue and try to hit the reset button. So mostly what we want, Israel, is for us to, we got to start talking to these youth. We can't do how we were. You can't be catching a bus at 7 years old. You can't be watching your sister and you're 8 and she's 3. Um, if someone is doing that, then that's fine. But remember, that grows that child up extra fast. If you is that all you have, then that's another topic. But how we were raised, we can't put the same thing on our children. You know what I'm saying? Because they believe um the birth control is abortion. And like I say, that is the new birth control. And the only reason why they stopping it, as we all know, the Caucasians is dying more than they're making babies, so they're trying to put an end to it. But they secretly trying to get our people to take hysterectomies or get hysterectomies and stuff like that. But that's a different story. All right, so let me get into it. So I have a few videos. Okay, so so the first video is about teens and how they basically coerce you into thinking it's okay to have sex. It's okay to have a girlfriend. It's okay to date, and I'm gonna give you my understanding on it. Okay. So let me get the first video. It's gonna be like 3 minutes long. Bear with me.
Pregnancy. Today we're going to talk about adolescent pregnancy. Adolescent pregnancy, a result of multiple factors beyond just the obvious lack of timely birth control. The teenage birth rate in the United States across racial and ethnic groups.
You guys can still see it, right?
On
You good up?
Declined continuously between 1991 and 2005. Although it increased a little bit between 2005 and 2007, it decreased to really low levels, historic low levels, between 2007 and 2019, largely related to increased contraceptive use and increased use of highly effective methods of contraception. Unfortunately, racial disparities related to social determinants of health, for example, how access to health care is available, continue to be an important issue, as the birth rate in Hispanic teens and non-Hispanic Black teens was approximately twice that of non-Hispanic white teens. The birth rate in American Indian and Alaska Native teens was approximately 2.5 times that in non-Hispanic white teens. Mental health disorders like major depression, bipolar disorder, or psychotic disorders appear to also be an important risk of pregnancy among teenagers. Approximately 19% of women aged 15 to 19 who have sexual intercourse become pregnant. Many pregnancies among teenagers are unintended. About 50% of those who get pregnant did not use any method of contraception before the pregnancy.
Con, Salakia. So you hear this? So they're literally saying that these teenagers who don't have a job, who don't have the responsibility of raising a family, who is trying to figure things out, who is trying to get the wisdom of this world, they're supposed to, at 15, think about safe sex. This is the tomfoolery I'm talking about. So you think a 14-year-old is going to think about, oh man, I should put my, as we used to call it, I gotta put my Jimmy on. Or man, I hope this girl has an IUD. Or I hope this 14-year-old girl is taking the Depro. That's a needle that they give you and stuff like that. I hope this female's on birth control. This is crazy.
24% because the partner did not want them to use contraception, which is a concern. 31% believe they could not get pregnant at the time, which is also concerning. And 13% actually had trouble trying to get contraception. And very interestingly, 22% actually did not mind getting pregnant. An important factor in adolescent pregnancy is the age gap with respect to the partner.
So you hear that these percentages are insane. So you have teenagers between the ages of like 15, 19 years old thinking it's okay. It's a 0.25% of teenagers out there that's on, and it's really affecting our communities, that think it's okay to have a baby at 16, at 17 years old.
Approximately 1 in 5 infants born to adolescents were fathered by men 5 or more years older than the mother. Interestingly, some adolescents perceive positive consequences of pregnancy or childbearing and actually want to be pregnant. In a national survey, nearly 1/5 of the girls responded that they wanted to get pregnant, and another 1/5 that they didn't mind being pregnant. Other adolescents may feel stigmatized by the pregnancy, and this is associated with multiple factors, including white race, ethnicity, not being in a legal common law relationship or engaged to the baby's father, having feelings of isolation, aspirations to complete college, experiencing verbal abuse or being fearful of being hurt by other teenagers, and experiencing family criticism. Very sadly, suicidal ideations happen in 5 to 14% of women during pregnancy, in adolescence, and the postpartum period. And
so That's it on that. So they're young. And camera's close. They're kids. They're still, their brain's not even developed yet. You know, they're under 25. So they're making teens in their 30s. And then when they turn 20, they think they 40. You know, that's why we say a person who's raised in the city, he's probably 15 going on 42 because of his life or her life experiences. And these children shouldn't be involved in that. Okay. So I know it's called, you know, the original birth control. We're going to get all into it because you got to understand the mindset of where your child's supposed to be. So you're not supposed to bring them up in a way of being a grown-up. This is why people get married at 20 and it don't work. I'm talking about the man's 20 and the female's 20. All right, so I got a couple scriptures bring out. Let me get Salakia. Let me get Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. Baba Kusha.
Come. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
All right. So of course that's for the male and the female. All right. So you have to train this child up. You got your child listening to your conversations on, I don't know, the different women and different men. You leaving your door open, you doing adult things. You leaving this kid with different people and stuff like that that you don't even know because you want to go to a party, you know. So train the child up, train up a child in the way he should go. That's very, very important. You can't just be making these babies and leaving them over your grandma's house, you know, because your grandma ain't the same grandma. Yeah, big mama ain't big mama no more. You know, that's a little sexy. That's a little red. That's a little all these little different female rappers out there. You know what I'm saying? That's Cardi B, a grandma. You know what I mean? They out going to the club. They bringing all these strangers over. You know, so train up a child in the way he should go. And I'm not saying every you know, daughter of Zion is like that, but it's a lot that's like that. You guys, the females had 50 years to bring up these kids. I ain't blaming y'all, but I'm just saying, you know, it's been 50 years and we understand, you know, what went on with the men and stuff like that. But again, we're all accountable. So tonight is not pointing any fingers, but again, you know, we're all accountable. And like I say, and that's another class, you know, they wanted the weaker vessel to raise these kids, you know. So again, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's facts. This is why some of us in our 40s, we still eating ramen noodle and chopped up hot dogs. You know, this is why some of us eating mayonnaise sandwiches and syrup sandwiches and sugar sandwiches, and we in our 50s. You know what I'm saying? We still making Kool-Aid with white sugar, knowing that's cancerous, but it's the way we was brought up. You know, I stopped making Kool-Aid in my 30s. I ain't gonna lie. I used to have my little pitcher, get my little grape and my little lemonade, and put the sugar in there and a little tropical punch. I know a little bit. And you was balling if you got the flavor aid. You know what I'm saying? So again, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old. So when he said that these children are not using, you know, um, condoms and birth control, why should a child at 15 be on birth control? Make that make sense. But now it's all embedded in these kids, and these kids. So I'm 49. So when I was in school in the seventh grade, I don't know, it was at 91 or something like that. We went to school every day where you had to go, if you was late, it was called the attendance office. There was two fish bowls full of condoms. Every day start out full. They had lifestyle, they had the ones with the little coin. I can't make this up. I'm in the seventh grade. 2 fish bowls, a little fish bowl you put the goldfish in, and by the end of the day, actually by lunch, it's empty every day. The whole 2 years I was in middle school. I don't know how middle school is now. I don't know if they do 7th and 8th grade, but when I was in middle school, it was 7th and 8th grade. And every day for them 2 years, they used to have fishbowl full of condoms. And then you could go enroll yourself into getting birth control and stuff like that. And that started with my generation, and then now it's common for a teenager to be on birth control. But is that the original birth control? Taking pills and wearing condoms and then having underage sex? You know what I'm saying? Let me get Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Baba Kushar. So I'm just bringing these scriptures out because we have to remember we are parents, and some of the stuff we was raised with, the iron fist as I call it, we have to dummy that down a little bit, and we gotta use wisdom because this is the information highway days. They can get information in 5 seconds. Hey, Dad, there's no such thing as a tooth fairy. That's a demon. You know what I'm saying? So now they're catching us. So we have to be at least 10 steps ahead of these kids. So Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, Baba Kisha.
This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 6 and verse 4. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of Yahweh.
God. So admonition, admonition is basically, with the pride, with these, it's gonna be my next scripture. I don't want to ruin it for the next year, but what you put into these kids, you're gonna get out. Okay, unless your child is born with a type of autistic thing, you can't say the R word. So being artistic, God forbid. But other than that, these children are hold on, Salakia. These children are very vital, and try not to provoke them. Meaning, remember when you was young. You know what I'm saying? Remember how it was for you to struggle. They got all these videos where the guy was asking his son, man, how many, if Charles had 4 apples and Lisa had 4 apples, how many they got? And he's like, 6. Yeah, that was hilarious. But we do that, all right? So we gotta cut that out. You know what I'm saying? We gotta have patience for our children. Okay. If you didn't want any, it's too bad. You're a father, you're a mother, all right? And if you put the time in, they will turn out good. So, and you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. So don't push these kids. I wouldn't say they're sensitive, but they not like us. We just grew up in different times. Y'all know that. And if some of y'all aren't from the cities, hey, you're lucky. But for us that grew up in the cities, wow. Okay. We remember. You couldn't go down the street without a crackhead asking you buy a VCR, trying to rob you, trying to lure you, or you got pedophiles, you got cops and meat wagons. It was so much stuff against you. It's crazy that we're here, but we're here. So again, try not to, you can't be calling these kids weak and sensitive and all this other stuff. They just wasn't our generation. I don't really agree with that, but what I can say is they have it a lot different than us. And this is why it's so easier. It's easy for them to fall underneath the spell of the original birth control because they really think that is birth control. And like I said, we're going to get into what birth control is, but again, it starts with the kids. So that's why I'm starting here. So it starts with the kids. You can't, tell somebody at 29 what to do. You can try to give them advice, but when they're 0 to about 10, 0 to 10, that's that vital age. And then they start to figure things out. And then they're like, oh man, my dad was right. But if you just sending that, got educated and just don't have time to be in that child's life, they got to send them to the YMCA and stuff like that. But remember, we know now that our children are being indoctrinated. We know that. So we just have to come up with preventive measures. So again, don't provoke your child to wrath. Don't provoke your child like those two daughters. I don't know what that mom was doing, but they killed her. They like beat her to death and then dragged her body outside. I should have put that clip. But it was two teenage kids from Georgia and they beat their mom to death, you know. And there's a lot of that going on. The little 10-year-old boy, his mom didn't buy him a gift, or she didn't do the Amazon thing. And he took her gun and shot her. Now, me personally, I think it was an accident, but I don't think the kid should get life. He was 10. Um, I don't know. Jury's out. But that's a kid, like Jesus, but it is what it is. So let me get one more scripture. And the reason for these scriptures, again, is so we can get to the children, try to get to these teens. You know what I'm saying? Because we've been through it. They ain't been through nothing. Half of these people haven't even been called a ninja. My oldest right now, she's 11. She ain't never been called a ninja. By the time I was like 6, I don't know how many times I was called that. We was running from Esau. You couldn't walk. We had to walk around a block to get to our block because you walked through theirs and you may not come out of that. That's how it was. Now there's still some towns like that. They still have sundown towns and stuff. But I'm talking about in Philly. We couldn't walk through certain parts of South Philly, and Southwest Philly without getting jumped. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it was the same in New York, Jersey, Connecticut, all those places. So let me get Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 7. Baba Kushai.
Come. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, beginning at verse 6. And these words, which I command thee this day, shall be in thine heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by thy way, Slaki by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Fine. So it's very, it's very critical that we raise our children. We're not afraid to express to our children how it is out here in this world. You think white people don't tell their kids don't sit next to black kids? You think that don't happen? You think they tell them, hey, don't bring none of them people home? Because they know a nation divided is weak. So they go with their own. You know what I'm saying? So they teach these kids this. All the nations teach this. You think Asian kids don't do this? You know what I'm saying? East Indian, especially them. You don't never see them with nobody. They always with another East Indian. I'm sure there's some, but technically Nicki Minaj is East Indian because her dad is Indian. But she claiming she a sister because her mom is Trinidadian, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, at the end of the day, you have to you got to teach these kids diligently. You can't be a lazy parent because you can't let the world raise your kids. Because every kid should know that birth control is the menstrual cycle. Every kid should know that by the time they're 12, especially a young lady. Between what, 11, sometimes it's 9, but mostly 11, 12, 13, 14, they coming on. They should understand that. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to get into this misconception of what is the original birth control. Because again, if we teach the kids that the Most High, he is definitely a highly intelligent man in the way he did everything. And so why wouldn't he make a birth control? Why would man? And that's what America does. It continues to program us to where as though we like, oh yeah, I got this birth control. How many people got girls pregnant? Don't raise your hand, but a lot of us in this chat got plenty of females pregnant on birth control. It was like a certain time you had to do it. I don't even think that stuff ever worked. And birth control is so hazardous, makes you gain weight, It messes with your hormone. Sometimes you're on your period for 3 months. Sometimes you don't see it for 2 months. It messes up your hormonal stuff, that estrogen and all that stuff that your cervix and, what it is that your body does. And people don't understand that. That's hormonal, So if you going ahead and you have a clock, and clock has little gears and stuff, and you don't know what you're doing, but you're just putting stuff in there. If you don't have an idea of what a birth control pill is, then you shouldn't take it. If you don't know what the Depro is and what it does to your body, you shouldn't take it. If you don't know what a hysterectomy is and you go get one, these are things, young ladies, that you guys have to talk. And I ain't talking about talking to a doctor. Just talk to some of your elder people and figure out what they're doing. They had this thing down here. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it's North Carolina. I think it was, was it? It was like 200 women who they gave them hysterectomies because they said they supposed to have them. These were healthy Black women. Now they, later on got it, they got to sue them and got some money back. It's the same thing with the Tuskegee thing. They gave like 60 some 100 Black men syphilis and stuff like that. So there's nothing new under the sun. All right. So hopefully you guys understand. So that was like the first phase of this original birth control. So start with the kids. So we have to teach these kids about that there's no such thing as a birth control, that the most you like females are born with birth control, and nobody should be having sex and dating at 14 and 15. Because none of that worked. What, there's 5 people in the world that's still married that got married at 17 and 18, and they cheated the whole time, probably had outside babies, did some swinging and all that stuff. We got to stop sending this false notion that getting I tell you this, you marry a woman the same age as you, 9 times out of 10, it ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? It's just what it is, So you should be at least 7 to 8 years older than that woman, because she's not going to respect you. I got married at 22. She was 23. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? We ain't spoken 15 years. That was back in the 90s I got married, but we were the same age. So that's my anecdotal. But at the end of the day, that's a lot of people getting married at 18, 19. You can't get married at the dude, Travis Hunter. He's 20 years old. How you driving a girl around at 16, driving her to parties, and you waiting in the car? That don't make no sense. But this is our people. So it starts with these kids, So we have to teach them diligently. He shouldn't even be thinking of no sex. No, I tell you this, no young man, probably under 28, should get married. You should be at least 30. Unless you got it together at 28, 29, I just say 30. And then the girl should be at least 22, 23. It'll work because she has respect for you. You done been through some stuff, and you no longer, you're not the same age as her. You know what I'm saying? And I think we all could maybe agree or not agree, but did it work? Is there people that get married? And then oh my God, if you're a young dude and you marry an old head, she 5 years older than you, man, you can forget it. She gonna be running all over you. Boy, shut up. So we see this. I believe that, it doesn't say you have to be that, 10 years older than the girl, but most of these prophets, most of these people were older than these ladies. So we have to do things, hit the reset button, and we have to do things the right way. We got all messed up. So we got time to get these kids right. Other day, little boy came to my daughter. My daughter's 11. And I happened to see this kid because I chaperoned. And he was like, I want to be your boyfriend. And my daughter comes to me. She said, Dad, this guy asked me to be boyfriend. And I already talked to her about this because she's in the 6th grade. And I said, what'd you tell him? I told him no. I said, why did you tell him no? Well, I mean, I need to focus on getting myself right, and school, and how to be a wife and stuff. This is what I'm teaching her, how to prepare herself to be a wife. You know what I'm saying? And that, she wants to be a lawyer. And that if you have a boyfriend, that's a different stress. How you in the 6th grade and you're dating a boy and you're thinking about him, that somebody come to you and say, hey, Tyrone is over there kissing Karen, as he should be. The boy 11. He don't owe you nothing. Y'all not married. So I'm teaching my daughter and I'm teaching my kids that and we'll get into that, when you lay with somebody, you're responsible. But we gotta stop letting these, especially these boys, do these illicit relationships. Stop letting your teens date. It's not gonna work. Did it work for us? Now, if somebody out here married to the person they slept with and they was 18 and under, kudos to you. But you just one in a million. All right. So we gotta stop doing that. All right. So I ran my mouth enough on that. So I'm gonna get this second video. This is a pretty good one. And this is going to talk about you're still on the subject. And then the last one will be, what we came here to see. But again, I wanted to touch on the kids, okay? So again, if you didn't get anything from that, hopefully you got that you need to raise these kids diligently. Don't wait till they 16 to talk about some birds and the bees. Man, they already started when they was 10. It was this lady I knew, her daughter was like, oh, was she? I was just like 14 or something. And she got caught doing something under the stadium during a pep rally. When you go into the auditorium and you know how you used to pull the benches out? She was under there with a boy at 14. I ain't gonna get into what she was doing. Wow. Really? This is what's going on. So who do you blame? You blame the mother? You blame the father? Who you blame? Well, apparently, no one was in her ear. No one was teaching her diligently. You know what I'm saying? And, it is, it is. Train up a child and they should go in their way. So let me bring out this next video. Salakia. Like I said, I ain't gonna be too long, Israel. Hopefully everybody sees it. Here we go.
States, February is Black History Month, a time when we honor the triumphs and struggles of African Americans throughout U.S. history. As civil rights groups across the nation observe the occasion, others question if the actions of groups like Planned Parenthood tell a different story. And joining us tonight to discuss is Delano Squires, research fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Richard and Helen DeVos Center for Life, Religion, and Family. Lana, great to be with you tonight. First off, let's talk as it pertains to the Black community.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Obviously, Planned Parenthood was founded by Margaret Sanger. I believe she opened her first birth control clinic in Brooklyn, New York, I want to say in 1916. And that clinic went on to become Planned Parenthood, and she's...
Make sure you guys look up Margaret Sanger. All right, we ain't gonna get into that crazy Esau, that cave dweller, but she was a wicked, wicked woman. All right, Margaret Sanger,
well known as a eugenicist, right? She believed that there were certain types of people, classes of people who would be better off not reproducing. And even though she spent, a large part of her career promoting birth control, Planned Parenthood now is the nation's largest abortion provider. And my contention in my recent column, op-ed, is that the civil rights organizations, the NAACP, the National Urban League, have taken up their cause because they seem to believe that depopulation is the civil rights issue of our time.
We hear so often,
Okay, Salakia. Depopulation, okay, that's that thing that Bill Gates is going into, trying to depopulate the world. But we all know that there's no such thing as free will. This world wouldn't even be here. That's a whole different subject. You guys, I think you can go to HOI Mustard Seed. I believe a couple brothers did some videos on free will. It's a really good subject. And so when you talk about the depopulation and about this abortion. Like I say, it goes hand in hand. And he's gonna say some, some prolific stuff. So just listen. And again, look up that woman, Margaret Sanger. And when you go the YouTube, look her up, you'll see a little algorithm that starts spewing out different historical stuff, stuff you may not even know about. And it'll go in depth.
Kind of piggybacking off of what you said, people talking about Black Lives Matter, but yet they're pushing and they're advocating for abortion and abortion on demand. Talk to us, Solana, about these messages, which really are at odds with each other.
Sure. And I mean, obviously a big part of the problem is the push for abortion on demand. But what I compare that to their again, these civil rights organizations and particularly Black progressive leaders, they don't even talk about marriage and the importance of family formation and fatherhood.
So you guys hear that? Okay. Hopefully you guys ain't sleep, watching some March Madness, but March Madness only the weekend. So they're pushing for condoms and birth control. Make that make sense. They're pushing for condoms and birth control. And remember, in the first video, they was talking about a lot of our people, non-Hispanic and this and this. Man, I'm Native Americans. You guys do the research on Native Americans. Whew, man. I was on a reservation one time, Lord in Christ. But anyway, you talk about having it bad. The projects ain't bad. You go to them reservations, and they're getting kidnapped. Anyway, it's a whole different story. So again, you have to understand what he's saying. Okay. They're pushing for abortion. They're pushing for this. This is the Rainbow Coalition. This is let me stop again. Let me let it play. But our civil leaders, he's telling you, like, look, these Democrats are not pushing marriage. They're pushing for our youth to have safe sex. Isn't that an oxymoron? You can get crabs by wearing a condom. You can get herpes by wearing a condom. You can get, I think that's about it. Yeah, herpes and crabs, even if you have a condom on. So what is safe sex? Salakia.
I noted that President Obama was probably the last national Democrat to talk about the importance of marriage. Now, obviously, he's still pro-abortion, but he at least talked about marriage and family formation. But now what you get from, again, those organizations that I mentioned is a nonstop push for abortion in the Black community. And in fact, when the Dobbs decision came down, the NAACP, the National Action Network, and the Urban League joined Planned Parenthood, NARAL, and a number of other abortion activist groups to write a letter demanding a meeting with the White House to talk about how Black women will be the real victims of pro-life legislation now that Roe had been struck down. So
isn't that disgusting? So they want our women to abort babies. That don't even make no sense. So you want these women to do, I don't know no Sexy Red song, but to Skeety Wheat, I think that's one of her songs. I mean, to do all this crazy stuff. And if you notice, guys, this all started it's been starting, but let's just start at the 90s. Real quick, you guys know who Little Kim is. I'm a Little Kim fan. I ain't gonna lie, I had the poster. I had the poster. But besides that, I didn't know that what Biggie was doing, and this is my belief why the Most High took him out, was there was a porn star called Heather Hunt, and her Little Kim about the same height, and she could rap. And they was gonna try to do the whole porn industry with the rap. Most High was like, oh, hit the button. You had to get him up out of there. And that's when Little Kim kind of faded out, but she's one of those ones that started. Remember, we had MC Light, Queen Latifah, Yo, we had all of them, you know what I mean? All those, but Little Kim was something different. And then they tried to, match her with Foxy Brown. So to me, them two are the progenitors of this stuff. They are your Sexy Reds and your Cardi B. So we can't just put it on Sexy Red. That's not fair. Or Sukihana. We really can't. Little Kim was nasty. And so just listen to her lyrics. But she can rhyme. And so they was trying to put that all together. So you guys can, do a little research on that. So what he's saying is, okay, guys, let me get this straight. So y'all rather push for this stuff to be overturned so our Black women and Hispanic women can keep being in the 1 million babies. Just go to CDC. Go to CDC, type up CDC, go in there, statistics on Black women, Hispanics, having abortions. Over 1 million babies. That ain't even funny. That's everybody on here should be crying. That's 1 million. That's crazy. 1 million kids? That don't make no sense. And it all starts, gotta train up a child. So we have to start in these kids. I ain't saying, your son is 15, he's done, or your daughter's 20. No, just, they may not follow the Israelite way. That's neither here or there. But show them the facts. And again, this class is on the original birth control, but we're getting to where as though the original birth control doesn't matter. They try to put all these things, and it starts when you're young. So now you're young and you really don't understand why I'm 12 years old and there's condoms. And they're asking me at 13, do I want to be on birth control? I mean, some of these sisters on here, I don't know, maybe 20, maybe 30, they may contest to, being asked, do they want birth control from their guidance counselor at 15? You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. But let it continue. Salakia.
It is a very perverse way of seeing the world. As I said, these people seem to think that it is better for a Black baby to be aborted than born to a poor Black mother.
Yeah, it's a terrible concept to grasp. I want to talk about the connection between fatherhood and ideal social outcomes. I know that you've talked about the importance of fatherhood and also of marriage and the ramifications of it all breaking down in society. Talk to us more about that and why that's so important to family.
Sure. I mean, the left, as you know, talks a lot about systems and institutions, but family is the one structure that they seem not to want to touch. And obviously, I believe that fatherhood is important. I believe every child has a right, not just to financial support, but also the love, the care, and affection of both a mother and a father. I think every child has.
And so we can understand what's going on. They're drawing a narrative. And like I say, most of the people in the class understand it. They're pushing things onto us. When you see these movies and everything, all these movies about these white people and they're saving the world, and there's always a white guy or a white woman that's saving the world. They pushed on us that there's something called aliens, but nobody has ever seen a picture. You know what I'm saying? So now people think these so-called UFOs, as we call them, IFOs, identified flying objects, but that they're God's chariots. It's the manipulation. So when I was in Iraq, right? I don't know. I think it was my second tour. It was my first tour. So we hung out with the Sizot people. And so these dudes, man, they crazy. They're crazy. Yeah, there's something wrong with them. They don't care what's going on. They're going to go there and they're going to pass out these leaflets. I don't know why nobody ever messed with them. But anyway, so we had to escort them. And I'm talking about we in the hoods of Iraq, right? And we just passing out these leaflets. And what they're doing is trying to win the hearts and minds of the people. One time we built a soccer field. We put the lines and everything. We thought that we was passing out medical supplies. 3 hours later, those Iraqis sweeped up that freaking soccer field and all the medical supplies. They ain't want it because they knew what the Americans were doing. And then 12 months later, the insurgency started. It's called insurgency. They started fighting back, as they should. As they should. I ain't telling us to go get weapons and fight back, but we have to fight back. We have to create an insurgency in our communities, guys, especially with our kids. Stop leaving your kids on these games. Pedophiles get on those games too. They be playing Madden and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So he's going into something whereas though it's a lot deeper, you know. So when we go ahead and we send these kids to school, and we got to read everything, They wanted my son to participate in the spy. And on the list of things, they was like, do you want your son to get his fingernails painted and his nose done and to get that, I don't know, that mud stuff on his face and put pineapples, what is it, limes on it? I was like, no, he ain't doing none of that stuff. They actually asked this. The boy, he was 8 years old, but he had one of them feminine teacher or feminist teachers. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nope, nope, nope. And I asked him and said, what happened? He's like, oh, I went there and I participated in this. I ain't do this. I was like, all right, cool. Some parents didn't even read it. You have to see what they're doing to these kids. Okay. And it's your job to counter it. The same way those white kids go to school and don't mess with your kid, call him a jigaboo or a porch monkey, whatever. I ain't saying we need to do that, but you have to do a separation because if we think they are our counterparts, then we just going to keep chasing their tail. Okay. So again, train up a child. All right. And as he's saying, they don't talk about marriage. So let them finish.
A need for maternal and paternal love. But I always root that message in marriage because I believe that marriage is the best structural enabler of father involvement. Because unfortunately, the one thing that they're not making more of is time. And if you're a man that has 3 children by 3 different women, it's impossible for you to be in 3 different homes at one time. So I think, as I said, fatherhood is.
Now, I don't agree with that. But now you make a baby in Alaska and a baby in Australia, and you got a baby in Portugal. Yeah, that's that. Come on, bro. But if you practicing, polygyny or multiple wives and stuff like that, that's a whole different story. And see, that's the problem. That monogamy is we're programmed a certain way. We come out already programmed. The Most High say, I already know from the time you're born, what I'm going to do with you. So again, we're already programmed. We already come pre-programmed, so you can't take certain things away from us. So what they do is they throw you into a monogamous society. Like I said earlier, they throw you into a monogamous society. They throw you into a pagan holiday society. Then look at my notes. Then to soften the blow, they put you into illicit relationships. That's key. Illicit relationships. What do you say? The key thing is marriage, right? We should be married. But if you having sex at 13 and then, I don't know, you 17, you love this girl, y'all been dating for 2 years, and then all of a sudden she has sex with your friend. Now you're like, man, I hate all women. Or vice versa. She has sex with your best friend. Oh man. Oh, hold up. My bad. She has sex with your best friend. You hate all women. Then you have sex with her girlfriend. Now she's mad at men. You know what I'm saying? And because it's called programming, we're not fully developed. Then by the time you get fully developed, you got like 2, 3 kids. But all you can do is go back to your relationships when you was 13. Okay? Stop letting your daughters wear them eyelashes. Stop letting your son wear these skinny jeans, man. Like this stuff is crazy. It's like common sense. I remember I got my sons back in 2000. What year was that? 2000. Because me and my ex-wife, we made a deal like, okay, when my son turns teenager, I get him and stuff. So they came to me and they had skinny jeans on. Man, I threw all them jeans in the trash. I was like, bro, and they was raised in Atlanta. I know, right? And I was like, bruh, no, we're not doing that. No, there's health reasons, number one. And number two, it looks nasty. Because when I was in Europe, they were wearing skinny jeans back in 2000. We used to laugh at the Germans. Cause I'm like, damn, why are they jeans so tight? Like, what's going on? Why y'all you can't even walk? You know, you see they sitting against the wall and just slide down. That's how tight their jeans were. It's ridiculous. You know, then all of a sudden it comes to America like 10 years later. Insane, right? So again, you have to go ahead and look at the formula of what he's saying. Marriage, marriage, marriage. And then my last thing that I said was illicit relationships. This is what these teens and these people are getting into 20 and below. They're getting into illicit relationships. And then all those relationships that they had, they bring that into their 20s and 30s. And like certain people say, you think you've grown. So by the time you're 20 and you're 30, you still have a teenage mentality because you done been through it. Let's be real. You know, in the black neighborhoods, everybody was getting STDs or STIs. In the 70s, it was STIs, which is sexually transmitted infections. In the 80s, it went to STDs. Then in the 2000s, went back to STIs. You was high five, like, oh man, yeah, I went over such and such house. Oh man, that girl, she burnt me. For real? Who? Such and such? Oh man, she burnt me like 3 weeks ago. This is our neighborhood. We 14, 15 talking about this stuff. Why? Because we wasn't brought up right. You know, mom and dad, mom had 10 jobs. Dad was doing what he was doing. You know, he had all his jobs, or he was trying to get back in the house, but mom was tripping. You know what I'm saying? So they wasn't really paying attention to you. So you out here in the streets dealing with, you know, your friends, and you thinking it's okay to get an STD. You know, that's like a badge of honor. You know, like, oh yeah, you know, I got something. No, guys, listen. Nope. No, that's wrong. Because that makes you sterile. That especially chlamydia. Chlamydia is the worst one, you know, because it sterilizes you. You know, gonorrhea, yeah, herpes, yeah, but chlamydia, yeah, you ain't having no babies. You know, it will sterilize you. And it's really hard for women to detect a lot of these diseases, you know, because of just how you guys are made, you know. So again, look into these, you know, different STDs. They're there for you to keep you in order. They're out there. Okay. So devil's advocate. All right. I hear you, brother Hashar. But what if I'm with my wife and she burnt me? Well, bro, you didn't judge right. You didn't choose right. You know, you got to vet her. All right. You met her on the corner drinking a 40, or you met her in the club and she was like, come on, like you guys got to use, you know, discernment. You know what I'm saying? Not saying you can't meet a wife or you can't meet somebody in a club environment or in Walmart and stuff. The internet's out there. Just go on her IG or her Facebook. She putting it out there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you may get one that may pull a fastball, but again, talk to your friends, vet them. Don't be too quick to jump in the bed and stuff like that, because you know, sex don't matter no more. We understand that. We understand that people are so twisted, especially Israel. They believe in this whole condom and this birth control and this IUD and this the Depro and all these different the foam, all this stuff works, right? So the meantime, you're having sex, but you know, sex is marriage, according to the Most High. When you lay with someone, oh, okay. But to us, on the common ground, it's like, oh no, it's not. But basically, it is because that's what he says, and you know, we're gonna get into the scriptures. I'm sorry, I'm real passionate about this because, like, you know, I got nephews, just like you guys got nephews and nieces and stuff. And it's just like when you see the stuff they do, you're like, oh my God, didn't I tell you about this? But we got to give it to them scriptures, and we should have did it when they was younger. So we get this younger generation right, and you get these people right, and then everybody will be right.
It's critically important. All right, fathers tend to interact with the children in different ways. They teach them different lessons, generally speaking. But I don't want to disembody fatherhood from the larger sort of family structure conversation. So that's why I think we should promote, and I talk about in the piece, the success sequence that shows that for young people in their 20s who finish school, high school, get a job, and then marry before having children, by the time they reach their mid 30s, people who follow that sequence have a single digit poverty rate. And that's across ethnic lines. So that's one thing that I think that we should push, and I think that these civil rights organizations should.
So I don't like. I hear what he's saying, but talking about the whole being married before you're 20. No, I don't. I don't agree with that. No man should get married 28 and below. Like, no, it don't work. It's a few of us out here that did it, but nah, you ain't ready. And it ain't because you want to be with more women. You're just not ready yet. Your mind's not ready for that, you know. So again, I understand what he's saying. He's looking at this, and that was like an overall thing, but nah, I don't agree with that one. But he said some very prolific things. So I want to land me back on that. I know the cave dweller, she said, "Oh, I want to piggyback." Yeah, we don't do that. It's land me back. So just FYI, we don't say piggyback. We say land me back. There's a pig is a swine. Let me get, because he was going in on the whole marriage thing. Let me get the book of Genesis, chapter 24, verse 67. Baba Kushah.
God, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 24, and verse 67. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
All right. So we don't have to break that down. We don't have to go into make a Netflix movie. We ain't got to go into details about what happened there. So when you lie with the opposite sex, not same sex, okay, we don't do that. The opposite sex, that is a natural born woman. You got to put that out there with no pronouns, okay? No pronouns. This is a real woman who has a uterus and stuff, and this is a man who has testicles, okay? Or male genitalia, female genitalia. There we go. All right. So when you lie with them, you are now married. Okay. So this will cut down on the illicit relationships. And that was one of the things that he was saying. But see, he's a brother, right? He might be a Christian and stuff like that. They don't teach that in Christianity. As far as I know, they don't. You do have these woke churches and stuff, and they be touching on stuff, but they don't touch on the proper things. They purposely do it. They don't say stuff, and just like brothers in the Bible had earrings in both ears. That's what they did. Brothers in the Bible wore grills and stuff like that. When I was growing up, I got my ear pierced, right? You had to get your ear pierced on the left. That meant you wasn't homosexual. If you got your ear pierced on the right, you was homosexual. If you got both of them, you was homosexual. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, who made this up? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who made this up? I remember this pastor, he came to our school. I was in high school, and he came and he said, "You men, you young boys with the earrings in your ear, that's homosexuality. You ain't supposed to be doing." I got offended. I was like, "What? Who you going, boy?" I went to go talk to him, right? And he was like, "Well, I ain't mean it like that, young brother, but that's for women only." I'm like, "Well, where's the scripture at to say that men can't pierce their ears?" You know what I'm saying? Like, where's that scripture? I never looked for it. Why? Because I'm in America. I'm doing my thing. I'm out here doing what we do as teenagers in the 90s, in the 80s, doing what we do. So again, it's so easily to get wrapped up in. So again, what we're saying is, now that a lot of people come into the truth, no, I mean, do you have 100 husbands because you slept with 100 men? Look, cut the sling load, as we used to say. Just cut it all off. You just figured it out. If you a man, you slept with 100 women, all right, dude, you ain't got 100 wives. But this is why you was catching STDs. This is why one of those women tried to kill you. Because maybe out of them 100 women, 10 of them was married. So that is adultery. We ain't trying to get all into it. But what I'm trying to say is once you get further and you start getting more indulged into this truth, you'll start to understand that you were programmed. Like the elder said, I never forget he said this when I first came to the truth in 2016. He said, you have to dump everything, not everything, everything. You got to dump everything and start over like a newborn. So you celebrated Easter, but you knew it was the Passover. You got to start over. You celebrated Christmas, but they told us we celebrated Christmas because they was afraid to celebrate it when he was really born. Listen, you got to get rid of all of that. You can't mix it. It's impossible to mix the American, verbiage with what we're trying to teach you. Nobody said walk through red lights. Nobody said stop at green lights. Nobody said that. What we're trying to say is you have to do it baby steps and you have to do it in moderation. So you have to forget all of that Christian, Buddhist, Muslim rhetoric. And if you can, then that's fine. Then it ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're going to wake up at another time or who knows, but again, you have to do that, that slow walk, into this truth, and don't just wait to get all the meat and the potatoes. Pause. You have to get this honey and milk. So again, they was feeding our kids meat and potatoes. And what happens? You can't digest that, right? But this is what they've been feeding them. Then when they teenager, now they giving them honey and milk. And it's just really hard to weed them off of this stuff. So they all intertwined into this stuff, right? And it's all about money. The family court system, they say it makes like 4 billion. I think it's a lie. The family court system gotta make $1 trillion a year. It got to. You having sex as a teenager, you're getting all these STIs, you're making all these babies, you finally find the one you think you found, then y'all get this toxic relationship. She hates your baby mama, you hate her baby daddy, because you done had kids when you was a teenager, or you done made some kids in your 20s. It's the same cycle. If it wasn't, it would only be 2 or 3 Black families. So again, Isaac he brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebecca, and she became his wife. That's it. We ain't gotta get into no other scriptures. You know what I'm saying? We can, but we ain't really gotta. It's like sometimes talking to our people is just crazy. Guys are stubborn and stiff-necked. Like, just take it for it. And if you can't take it, then research it. Go to Google Scholar and just research it. The Most High is very methodical in what he does. Okay. And we're going to see this when we get to, tonight's topic, but I'm bringing up these topics, the kids. Then we talking about marriage. So if you don't talk to your kids diligently about marriage, then she or he's going to be, he going to be a hoe and she's going to be a thot. Or she's going to start playing for the other team and he might start, you know what I'm saying? There's reasons for this. Okay. So let me get Proverbs 18, verse 22. Baba Kusha.
Come on. Here's the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, and verse 22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of Yahweh.
Fine. So, yeah, we know how it used to go back in the day, but times has changed. Fathers aren't giving their daughters to men, and the man pays. Like we understand now. They do that when I was in Kuwait, the so-called Middle East. They do that. And I talked to one of the young ladies over there about that. And I think I brought it out before. I was like, well, what if you don't like the dude? And I was like, is that fair? She's like, well, this is how I grew up, and I don't see nothing wrong with it. I got to choose between 3 men. She said she got to choose between 3 men, right? And when she went on a date with these guys, her brother would be on the date with her. He'd be sitting in the same movie theater or wherever. He'd be right there. I mean, honestly, I don't see nothing wrong with that. Just my opinion. I don't see nothing wrong with that. But that's other cultures, right? So I just had to ask that. And so to make a long story short, you find of a wife, it's a good thing. You find if you yourself a spouse is a good thing. We're not going to get into can a man have multiple wives? Can a woman have multiple husbands? It's not the conversation. It's original birth control because this is a very hot topic. Why is this a hot topic? Because everybody started having sex at like 10 years old, and they think birth control is going to stop and save them from making babies and from being attached to somebody else. It's just an excuse to make you have illicit relationships. Okay? It's wrong. You can't be jumping on every pogo stick, Eve. And Jake, you can't be trying to enter every tunnel, bro. You gotta stop it. We've seen there's like millions of men in the cemetery right now because you ran up in somebody else's rib or so-called girlfriend, and vice versa. You see the girl that got shot on the internet? She bust that champagne bottle over that girl's. I don't know why the girl killed her, but she was mad. I don't know if it broke she was just mad. She got out of the car and shot 10 bullets at that young lady. They never said if she was dead or not, but she was like right there. She shouldn't have missed, but who knows? Sometimes you think you got somebody in your line of sight, and them angels go ahead and save it. But at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to prevent. You see all these women on here, you're cheating on me, you're this, you're that. Ladies, he's meant to have that. However, he's doing illicit stuff. He's doing it unrighteously because they told us this is what we need to do. So it just keeps causing all this discourse and all this other stuff. And to the point to where as though it's retarded. That's why you have to, do your due diligence. All right. So find of a wife, find of a good thing, So you can't be out here dating some girl and you having sex with her and you ain't trying to wife her up. You just, smashing. And then you like, man, her girlfriend look good. Or man, I like her cousin. Like, dude, you're gonna cause turmoil. I understand the times that we're in, but we gotta use wisdom. Okay, and we gotta use discernment. All right. Yeah, I'm old. I'm 49 now. So I ain't in the game, but I get it. Oh, what if you was 16? Well, ain't nobody tell me at 16. I'm telling you, 16-year-old. I'm telling you, 12-year-old. I'm telling you, 25-year-old. You know what I'm saying? And some of our elders found this out. They're older than me. And they knew this and they stopped. You know, elders about elders have been in this like 30 years. It's a long time to be in this stuff. I think Ellis Ball was like 22, 21 years, something like that. You know what I'm saying? So we have people who have crossed that line, guys. But at the end of the day, you have to worry about your own salvation. They are the examples, but it was hard. Okay? What they say statistically, there's more male virgins than there are females. Google it. It's on CDC. That's crazy. So there's less female virgins than men? What's going on? Instagram. All these IG females flying to Dubai and doing all this crazy stuff. Oh, they're using birth control pills. Oh, they got this in them and they got that, but it don't stop you from catching stuff. So again, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So what the brother said in the video was very great. All right. So here we are. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. What time is it? All right. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. I ain't going too much. But we're going to talk about this third video. All right. And it's going to go into what the topic is tonight. So I find a lot of women don't like to talk to their daughters about the menstrual cycle and how it works. Ladies, your menstrual cycle is freaking birth control. Stop playing. It is birth control, okay? No, I didn't say, Brother Hashar didn't say don't use this, don't use it. If you doing crazy stuff out there, then yes, do what you need to do. Okay. If you have your means and this is my money, I'm OnlyFans, then this is not for you. This is for the ladies and the men who understand what it is to be a husband and a wife, not no boyfriend, no girlfriend. Okay. But again, you have to vet this woman. You have to vet this man to get to know them to make sure they're not playing games. Okay. So, um, just a food for thought. Egyptians invented condoms, guys. Why did Egyptians invent condoms? Because they was banging animals. They were really big into this bestiality, Kemet stuff. Okay. So that's where condoms come from. The ancient Egyptian empire. All right. That's where it comes from. So think about what condoms are made up of. Plastic. And when plastic heats up, what happens? It starts to go into you, right? So you think you want a condom in you, ladies? For what's the thing? I was trying to find, I couldn't find it. Um, you only supposed to wear a condom for like 4 minutes or something like that. Because it starts to get friction and you have to change it out. You know what I'm saying? So, ladies, it's for you. Once you start getting that plastic in you, where do you think y'all getting all these fibroids from? Especially you daughters of Zion. Okay? It's plastic and it gets hot. And what happens? You're not even supposed to put the plastic TV dinners in the freaking microwave. You ever go to Starbucks and you get the cup of coffee? Look at the cup and look on top of the coffee with the light on it. You will see some stuff oozing into it. It's the wax. Yeah, that's going into you. You know what I'm saying? So again, you have to look at it. There's no such thing as man-made birth control, guys. Your husband, and you gotta follow his menstrual cycle. Now, this one's pretty cool. I had this really nerd video. I think everybody would have graduated with a doctorate degree if I would have played it. I was like, man, it was really nerd. But I found something because what they say is, in the Army, we always try to do things like you always want to teach things at a fifth grade level. Not saying you guys aren't intelligent. Look, I graduated high school, leave me alone. But you always want to do things in the fifth grade level. Why? Because the average person, we ain't talking about you Southern boys, you know what I'm saying? No offense. Some of y'all made it to second grade, but most people make it to fifth grade. Okay. So that's why you always want to teach things on the fifth grade level. I used to dummy it down. I used to go to third grade. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to my Southerners. I'm just messing with y'all. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and play the video. And does anybody need to take a little breather, a little break, stretch out? All right, it's not that long. It's probably like 5 minutes long. Let me see, what time is it? 21:50. So we'll just pause it right now. And for a little bit, everybody take a little breather, stretch out, do a little woosah, little intermission. If you gotta run to the restroom or something like that. All right. So we'll just do some little breathing exercises and stuff. So, all right. So breathe in. Breathe in. Hold it for a few seconds and breathe out. All right. Get your mind right. I've been talking just continuously and stuff like that. So, take a little 30-second break. Hopefully everybody be okay with that. All right. So we play this last video and here we go.
We will discuss the steps in a menstrual cycle to understand how the egg develops. During a woman's fertile years, her ovaries will go through about 450 ovarian or menstrual cycles. During each cycle, a number of haploid eggs will begin to mature, but usually only one egg cell from one or the other ovary will mature completely and be released while the others will degenerate. This time is particularly painful for most females as part of the endometrium ruptures and sheds off, giving rise to abdominal cramps, headaches, muscle pain, bloating, diarrhea, or constipation, to name a few. These are often accompanied by mood swings. The symptoms vary among females. Before the cycle starts, inside the ovary, there are many developing follicles. The young follicles are called primary follicles. Each primary follicle consists of a potential egg cell surrounded by a layer of smaller cells, known as follicle cells. The primary follicle may grow to maturity, and a mature follicle is known as a Graafian follicle. The Graafian follicle contains an egg surrounded by follicle consists of a potential egg cell accompanied by mood swings.
So again, like I said, it varies on each woman. Some women have these heavy cycles and all this other stuff. So this is basically showing you that the menstrual cycle is birth control. It's the original birth control. Okay, but it causes you certain mood swings due to the hormonal balances. Okay,
Symptoms vary among females.
so it varies among females. Some females have it heavy, some light, some whatever, but it varies. Okay.
Before the cycle starts, inside the ovary, there are many developing follicles. The young follicles are called primary follicles. Each primary follicle consists of a potential egg cell surrounded by a layer of smaller cells, known as follicle cells. The primary follicle may grow to maturity, and a mature follicle is known as a Graafian follicle. The Graafian follicle contains an egg surrounded by follicle cells and fluid-filled space. At about the 14th day from the beginning of menstruation, the Graafian follicle ruptures and releases the egg into the oviduct funnel. This is called ovulation. After the ovulation, the leftover follicle.
So that's the key word, ovulation. Okay. This is when you get pregnant. So pay attention. Men and women, especially women.
Develops into corpus luteum. The corpus luteum will still persist for some time and then break down. The production of hormones will be stopped and the menstrual cycle will start over. Events during menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle normally spans over 28 days. There is a natural variation in the length of this cycle, and it can range from 21 to 33 days. Day 1 to 5, phase 1. The first day of menstruation is day 1 of the menstrual cycle. The endometrium break.
So that first day, there's apps, ladies, that you can download and you put in, if you don't know how to track your ovulation, you can go ahead and download the app, menstrual cycle, and you put in there when you start. And then you put in there when it ends, and it calculates your ovulation. Okay.
It's down and flows out of the body. Mostly, the first 5 days are characterized by heavy.
And no, Israel, you cannot have intercourse while the woman is on her cycle. Okay. You're unclean for 7 days. So no intercourse.
Bleeding. Day 6 to 13, phase 2. The ovaries secrete estrogen, which starts the repair and growth of the end.
So when it says, all right, you see that? So 6, I say about 10. So the 6th day, there's no more spotting, none of this stuff. 6 to about the 9th day is you have a 25% chance of getting, your wife pregnant. That is birth control. Okay. So just don't have sex for the next, I say, let me see, for the next like 6 days. It's going to break it down.
Phase 2. The ovaries secrete estrogen, which starts the repair and growth of the endometrium. Endometrium becomes thicker and bleeding stops completely. On day 14, a mature ovum is released from the ovaries. The Graafian follicle becomes corpus luteum. This cell, the corpus luteum, releases progesterone. Along this cell, the mature ovum is released from the ovaries. The Graafian follicle becomes corpus luteum. This cell, the corpus luteum, releases progesterone, along with some estrogen. Progesterone causes the uterine lining to remain thick and soft, well supplied by blood vessels. The endometrium is ready for pregnancy. Day 11 to 17, phase 3. This is the fertile phase of the menstrual.
All right, so day 11 to 17, but this is like 100% chance. 12, 13, 14, definitely 14, okay? For the ladies and for the men. There's a 100% chance. This is birth control. This is the original birth control, all right? So you don't need to have no condom. Now, if you out here and you just can't control yourself and you just gotta have it, well, bro, you know, welcome to the STI. Welcome to the STD world, okay? It's gonna happen. Trust and believe in me. You know, you're gonna catch something. And that's the Most High telling you, slow down. And who knows what's gonna come next, okay? All right, so that's judgment. So again, 11 to 17, this is the menstrual cycle. All this stuff works in days. So this is the original birth control. I'm not telling you guys this so you can go out and use it for wickedness. All right, that's another testimony. You can use this for wickedness. However, this is mostly for the ladies to show your daughters and stuff like that. Like, this is something that women need to understand. You know, you have a natural birth control from the Most High. He did this. Okay.
Cycle. Sperms deposited in the vagina from day 11 onwards can fertilize the ovum, which is released from the ovaries on day 14. The ovum can survive for 1 to 2 days after ovulation, which is released phase 3. This is the fertile phase of the menstrual cycle. Sperms deposited.
Now you see these sperm, right? They get ready to go into this uterus and stuff. So what happens also, ladies, I don't want to get all into it, but they plant themselves. So when you have sex with a man, these little starship troopers right here, they plant themselves in you. Okay, ladies? To 10 to 15 years. So this is why you can't be promiscuous or, you know, out here just doing what you want to do. All right? Because this man is for you. That's a whole different class. But this is your dude. You only supposed to have one body. Yeah, some of you guys have more bodies. I'm not making fun of you, but now we know we in the truth. So we hit the reset button. So, you know, don't come in my inbox or DMing me, cussing me out. But this is why, for instance, if you have sex with a man, like right now, this is the sperm, and then a day later, you have sex with another man, just FYI, those sperm, they battle. They have footage on this on I believe it's the History Channel. They have footage on this. They, you know, they put a camera on somebody and showed this different stuff. So this is why you're not supposed to have more than one sex partner, because the sperm fights. It's literally millions of sperm. They leave a defense mechanism, a linebacker, whatever, just in case something come in. And if new sperm come in, oh, they fighting them. And this is when you have your various diseases and stuff like that, okay? So yes, it is true that not all sperm, but a certain amount of sperm will implant themselves into your sexual reproductive organs and stuff like that, and they will leave certain spirits. You got 20 bodies in you, you know, there we go. So, but the focus tonight is the original birth control. So as you can see, it's talking about the sperm. Let's get ready to do its thing.
In the vagina from day 11 onwards can fertilize the ovum, which is released from the ovaries on day 14. The ovum can survive for 1 to 2 days after ovulation, while sperms can survive for 2 to 3 days in the female reproductive system. Hence, fertilization is possible up to day 17. Day 18 to 28, phase 4. The rest of the days make up the infertile phase of the menstrual cycle. Sexual intercourse during this period is unlikely to result in fertilization, since no ovum is present. Thank you for your continuous support, especially our valued patron. Phase 4. The rest of the days make up the infertile phase 18 to 28.
So you see that right there? That right there. So day 15, but I wouldn't do it. I would wait till 17. You know, so if you don't want to get your, well, it says 18. If you don't want to get your wife pregnant and stuff like that, that's the time I would, have intercourse and stuff. Okay. So that is the original birth control. Now, some of you knew that, probably all of you knew, I don't know. But, hopefully this was, educational and gave you guys some understanding of what it is. Let me bring some scriptures out real quick. Let me get Baba Kushai. Let me get 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 14, and verse 33. For Yahweh is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints.
So he's not the author of confusion. He didn't say, hey, man, listen, I need y'all to make birth control. I know I made y'all, but hey, man, I just forgot. I ain't think condoms. Yeah, foam. Yeah, let her take a pill. Yeah, because no, he's not the art of confusion. Stop playing. You know what I'm saying? It's disrespectful. For God is not the author of confusion. All right. And this is why the other nations do things the way they do it, because this is nothing new under the sun. Israel we already know what we supposed to do, but then we don't do it. You know what I mean? So let me get 2 Kings chapter 17. 2 Kings chapter 17, 7 through 12.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 17, beginning at verse 7. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods.
Salakia. So look at us. We came out of Egypt, sinned against the Lord. This is what we do. We're hard-headed. Continue, brother.
Verse 8, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made.
Shalakia. So, and we walked in the statutes of the heathen. So what are we doing now? So I got 5 girls. I'm having sex with them. I'm using birth control. This one got I don't know, all sorts of stuff. She's taking the Depro. I got this one. I use condoms with her. What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? You know what I'm saying? You gotta know it's going to catch up with it, catches up with everybody. I don't know nobody who has at least 3 women that hasn't been caught up in some tomfoolery. It just keeps happening. And then when the Most High intervene, we all up there trying to do a GoFundMe because you dead. Okay? You got to chill with this. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's sex and stuff, but your kids watch this stuff and they learn. When I was growing up, it was called the 4F Club. Find them, fool them, F them, and forget them. That's what it was called when I was growing up.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? So I had brothers and stuff. We was all into that stuff, and that's what it was. And was it wrong? It was wrong. But then you had girls doing the same thing. Now everybody upset. Man, these girls, they act just like us. Are you serious, bro? Do you remember the 80s and the 90s? I remember them. You know how we treated these women? And now we surprised that they masculine and that they doing the stuff we do because we used to do this stuff to them. And we didn't know no better. They didn't know no better. But, you see what happens when they're on the menstrual cycle, little emotions and stuff happen, stuff like that, right? So again, we have to be in order. And a lot of us have daughters. We just love our daughters. And what happened? Daughter hook up with the same dude you are. You're like, oh man, how did this happen? Bro, what comes around, go around. You reap what you sow. Salakia King. Go ahead, verse 9.
Oh, dang, my bad.
You good,
Verse
King.
9. Yeah, I was on mute. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahweh their God. And they built them highly places in all the cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom Yahweh carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. 12. For they serve idols, whereof Yahweh has said unto them, ye shall not do this thing.
Yeah, you guys need to read that, man. Second Kings is crazy. So, when you get into it, First Kings is when we separated, all right, into the northern and southern kingdom. You know, we're struggling as a people. We're trying to do the best thing we can. The Most High wakes up and puts to sleep. He judges all this other stuff like that. But listen, like I say, this class was mostly for, the younger Israelites, these teenagers. They're going through a lot of stuff. We know that. We were teenagers. Teenagers is a rough year. I don't care what nobody say. That probably was the roughest time being a teenager. It's my opinion. Because you getting so much information, you learning your parents, you like, man, this and that. It was a rough period for some of us. Some of us grew up in a normal childhood, had the father and the mother. Kudos to you, you know. But for this 70s baby and raised in the 80s and the 90s, nah, I wasn't like that, my whole walk, you know what I'm saying? So if you did grow up with just a mom or with a dad and stuff like that, don't have no animosity. It is what it is. But we have to focus on these kids. And what he just read in Keynes, our people been doing this forever. We just fall short. We downtown preaching in Raleigh, and it's like 10 kids downtown with all black on. It's hot. They got hoodies on with masks, holes in their jeans, like that. Like, I don't know why guys wear the hole. I can't do the holes in my jeans. It's just me. But and they skinny jeans too, and knees all ashy. But anyway, and they probably got the blick on them, and they walking around looking crazy. I'm like, what is wrong with these dudes? And it's just crazy what's going on with our young people, man. And parents, stay in your kids' life. Teach them the original birth control. Like it said, the Most High is not the art of confusion. All right. And so hopefully people are edified on this class. You can just watch this class over. You don't want to show your daughter about the menstrual cycle stuff. It's something good that, I met plenty of women in their 20s, late 20s that didn't know nothing about ovulation. So again, ovulation is when a woman is 100% going to get pregnant. Okay? That's what that is. We normally say it's the 12th through the 14th day. Okay? So anytime after the 18th day, if you don't want to have a baby from your husband, not boyfriend, not fiance, not the dude you want to hit, not the side dude, not the what is it, the friend with benefits, not the courier, whatever is out there. All right. This is your husband. You don't want to get pregnant. You do this. Don't utilize this for wickedness, because the Most High is going to get you, you know, and his anger slow, eventually it's creep up on you, you get a knock at the door, and then the next thing you know, you in third heaven. So again, just understand that there's an original birth control. And original birth control for women is your menstrual cycle. But it's not for 15 different men. They didn't go into what the sperm do if you having sex. So the sperm lives anywhere from 48 to 70 hours, something like that, right? And then they in there. And then you trying to go with somebody else, I'm gonna use a condom. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you have to do things with wisdom and with understanding. So now you in this truth, or you're trying to come into this truth, utilize it the best way you can. Ladies, your menstrual cycle is your birth control. Stop taking birth control. Stop using condoms. Stop using IUDs. Stop doing the debt pro. If you can't stop doing that, you just came into this and you're an Only's fan or you're a prostitute, do what you need to do, but you need to weed yourself off of that and just have yourself a husband. Okay. I don't know if there's guys on OnlyFans. I don't know. If you're a guy, you're doing the same thing the girl's doing, weed yourself off of that and get yourself a wife. Okay. You probably don't need wives. That's a whole different subject. You trying to get multiple wives and stuff, go to the elders. Don't bring two, go to the elders. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Go to the elders. Don't come in here with this whole, because I think they got this new thing out there called a poly relationship. And from what I'm understanding, a poly relationship is everybody do everybody. It's like a threesome, but you're in a relationship. No, you're not supposed to be doing this stuff. Yes, us Israelites, we're old and we follow the Bible, but we know what's going on in this world. And no, we don't at HOI subscribe to a poly. Okay, cut it out. Stop playing. All right. We don't subscribe to pansexual. We don't subscribe to that stuff. Okay, everything is done righteously and in order. And like the one of the brothers said on the little clip, marriage. You got to push it, okay? So anybody got any questions? I'm gonna end it on the famous scripture. I don't know if Captain Ariah is listening. I've been working on it on my my Paleo Hebrew and for the Lord's Prayer. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Let me see. Verse, what is it? 12? No what? Let me get Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13.
Yeah, come. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
And verse 14, Salakia.
Verse 14, for God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
So again, we're talking about the original birth control. You have to do the righteous act. You have to do what you know is right. It's that same thing when you out and you're hungry and you got that piece on you and you're like, man, I gotta eat. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this dude. I'm gonna get this young boy. I'm gonna get the. You got to do the righteous act, because the Most High will see every secret thing. He sees the good or the evil. You may not have killed this dude, but you may, I don't know, set this dude off. He may know you. He may know your sister. You don't know. So again, going back to the original birth control, you got to do what you're supposed to do. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God. Not forget everything and run. Fear God. You got to follow. You heard what he said in Kings. They knew what they was doing, and they went ahead and started making statues and this and following the heathen's way, just doing stupid stuff. It was already separated, Northern Kingdom, Southern Kingdom. Now they like, oh, we're gonna do what we want to do. So again, you have to do the right thing. All right. Um, so hopefully this edified, you guys. It was weighing on my heart about this. I'm seeing all this stuff that's going on in the world and all these women getting abortions and getting pregnant, and it's my baby, my body, all this other stuff. Listen, men, if you get a woman pregnant, it is not your child in most of the states. It's your child, but it's not your child until it's born. Therefore, be married. You have rights, you have laws. Okay. If you're not married, don't sit up here crying that she aborted your baby. All right. Been there, done that. So nobody told me that. So you get these girls pregnant, you want to have a baby, and she go ahead and abort it. It's not your kid, according to the states. Okay. I don't know, maybe it's one or two states that you might can get away with that with. And with the laws that's going on now, understand once the child is born, you have 50% custody. She has 50% custody. The first one to child custody wins. You would notice y'all out here getting high and doing all this stupid stuff. So again, men, you get a woman pregnant, according to this society, if it's not your wife, that child ain't nothing until it comes out. Women, utilize the menstrual cycle as a birth control, even if you're using condoms. If you're on birth control, again, ladies, it's going to mess with your hormonal stuff. It's going to mess with all that stuff because it's trying to give artificial estrogen and all these different hormonal things. This is why you're bleeding for 2 months or you don't bleed or whatever the case may be. You got to do things right. Okay. So, IUD, like all these different things that's out there. Okay. So you have to understand what this thing pumps into you. Remember, what cleans the pH balance of a woman is what? 4.5. What cleans the woman's vaginal area or genitalia? The cervix. So if you're getting a partial hysterectomy, which is okay, because you're trying to get rid of these things called fibroids, understand what a fibroid is. Stop getting these hysterectomies. It's turning you to a different person. How you gonna take out your system and think you're gonna be okay? But I digress. That's a different class. I'm sorry. So again, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. All right. Anybody got any questions? Probably not. Everybody probably sleep. All right. So let me do. Is Captain Ariel on here? I probably gotta do this.
If you want, I can read it. If you want.
Oh, you know it?
Con.
All right, yeah, Con. I'm still struggling on a couple words. I've been going over this stuff all day. But yeah, you can read it and I'll do the English portion. So everybody face the east. If you don't know what the east is, it's where the sun That is the east, okay? And the west is where it sets, okay? Oh, give me a second, King.
Uh,
Okay, you can go ahead, King.
God, this is the Lord prayer in the Paleo Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kadash, Ayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakwata, Taba'a, Batazaka, Ayah, Ashah, Baharataza, Gawa, Ayah, Bashamayim, Nathanawa, Lakam, Ka, Yawam, Wasalakwa Kawabawatanawa, Kasalaklanawa, Kawabawatanawa, Wa'ala, Salaki, Wala'a, Daba Yanawa, Banasa Yanawa, Abba, Hawashanawa, Mayan, Rai, Gaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahatapara, Laya Wala Yamyam, Slaki, Laya Wala Wam, Man,
Man. Gone. The Water King.
Still working on it too.
Hey, yeah, man, I'm working on it. All right, guys. So it's the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 9. All right. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, guys. So that concludes tonight's class. Hopefully everybody, got edified. Again, the original birth control. I just think it's something that needs to be talked about. We don't never really express this stuff. You ladies, please talk to your especially your young princesses and stuff like that. And you men, again, if you guys, utilize it. Stop making babies. We don't need to keep killing the millions of kids. Like, come on now. Abortion is not birth control. And I know that mostly started, it started in 1916. And growing up, when I was in high school, girls was ripping that stuff out in the freaking teacher stalls or the bathroom stalls. I ain't never have it happen in my school, but they was on the news. Now, everybody that I seen to do it was a white person. Maybe it was a black girl, but most of the time I seen it was on TV. It was a white girl ripping that thing out in the stall. I'm like, what? So I don't know how true that is, because I was a teenager, that could have been propaganda, which it probably was. So they could go ahead and push the whole abortion thing. And so now we up to 1 million abortions a year. That's ridiculous. Okay. So hopefully everybody got edified. Anybody got any questions or anything? All right. Kind. Well, Shalom. And Death to America.
Shalom.
Shalom.